Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this stream on both platforms, on YouTube and Rumble. And if it's not too difficult, dear friends, if you are watching this live stream on YouTube, please switch to my Rumble channel, where channel is monetized after all, and views matter. While on YouTube, my channel, as you know, is not monetized, and views and all that stuff is irrelevant in terms of support for the channel. But anyways, let's start today's stream. It's 26th of June, 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and I hope you will find this episode informative and useful. And if so, dear friends, please don't forget to click like button on both platforms, because that might help to reach wider audience. And after stream, if you will have a time, leave some commentary also. And during the day, if you come across of my short clips that I will make from this live stream, yet again, if you have a time and can spare a minute, please click like button on those videos too, and then leave some comment, because lately, especially on YouTube, by the way, algorithm become extremely aggressive. Probably you notice on the view numbers on YouTube. I don't know what had happened, maybe because I was too critical of criminal actions of Israel. As we all know, they have quite an influence in many ways, including on YouTube. And whenever you say Israel is a fascist state, as I did right now, that means most likely your channel is gonna stay in a shadow ban forever. But true is true, by the way. Israel is a fascist state and have to be demilitarized and denazified, 100%. There can be no doubts about that. Anyways, let's start this news segment now. And well, first news is about NATO summit that was taking place in Netherlands, in Hague. Many news was coming from Netherlands yesterday. Quite a weirder developments were taking place, and I will touch up on that topic a little late. But first of all, let me give you this news that NATO chief Mark Rutte promised Zelensky that alliance can fund Ukraine for another decade. So basically, in other words, what Secretary General of NATO said is that globalist Western ruling class is willing to finance this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and provide weapons as long as there is anybody left in this former Soviet Republic under the name of Ukraine that can be forcefully mobilized and basically sacrificed while being thrown into trenches. That's that's what they said, right? And let me give you a short video of these statements of Rutte. It's quite something, isn't it? I mean, just listen.
Commitment to Ukraine endures. And it is now in the summit declaration with a clear link to the money, and I think that is important for the next 5 to 10 years. Not that we expect the fight to take so long, but that whatever is necessary, we will keep you in the fight. So words matter, but it's not just words. We're also providing unprecedented practical and political support. And our partnership, I think, is for NATO one of our most substantial. And it means that we will also continue to provide extensive military assistance. Several nations at this table here today, and many other allies, have already made substantial pledges recently, including air defense systems, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, artillery systems, drones, naval systems, and munitions. So that is good news.
So there is not much to add, really. Here, it is obvious that Western ruling class is willing to continue this proxy war against Russia as long as there is literally anybody left on Kiev-controlled territory to be sacrificed. It is extremely sad that people in Ukraine, many people, still struggle to wake up and realize what is happening and how they've been treated by their so-called allies. But it is what it is. We have to deal with the reality that we are facing, right? And when it comes to financial part of these promises that Rutte, and if you notice in that video, it was not just Rutte there, but also leaders, so-called leaders of this coalition of willing. Macron was there, Stammer was there, leader of Poland was there, and also Italy and some other elements. Well, Rutte also went to say that Kiev will receive over 50 billion euros worth of weapons in 2025 alone. So it's quite a lot of weapons, isn't it? And when I see this news difference, I was thinking, yes, it's a huge amount of money that European taxpayers will pay to prolong this proxy war against Russia. But yet again, main obstacle that these Western proxies in Kiev regime are facing is a lack of manpower. And they might send their money, they might send their weapons, but I guess already this year, by the way, Kiev regime, which is already struggling to forcefully mobilize enough personnel to keep their defense lines in more or less battle-capable shape, I guess towards the end of this year, this issue that Kiev regime is facing is going to become basically unsustainable, right? For a Kiev regime, they will struggle more and more to kidnap people from the streets of Kiev and there are other cities, towns, and villages. And I expect towards the end of this year, beginning of the next year, some decisive actions from Russian side to take place. And basically, that's going to be it, I guess. In 2026, most likely, this proxy war that West is waging against Russia will end with their obviously unconditional surrender of Kiev regime and its Western backers, globalists, neocons, we can call them whatever we want, but we all know what am I talking about. But when it comes to right now, financial and military assistance to Kiev regime, it's 50 billion euros that was promised worth of weapons, by the way, which is quite something, isn't it? Not all NATO member states have even defense budget of this big, right? Just a few of them. Anyways, to continue, dear friends, as you know, and as I reported yesterday during the live stream, Trump was planning to have a meeting with Zelensky, and that meeting did take place. Some 40 minutes, Trump and Zelensky were exchanging opinions. There was no press conference afterwards of both, but Trump was speaking to media all day yesterday. And let me give you a short episode. Zelensky, after this meeting, stated that they discussed ceasefire, among other things, during the talks. But Trump denied this claim. And you can listen to this video now. For example, so let me give you this.
Fire in this Russo-Ukrainian.
No, I wanted to know how he's doing. He was very nice, actually. We had little rough times sometimes. He was couldn't have been nicer. I think he'd like to see an end to this. I do. I think what I took from the meeting couldn't have been nicer, actually. But I took from the meeting that he'd like to see it end.
So in the beginning, you can see he's answering no to this question if they talk about ceasefire. Let's listen to it again.
Does any ceasefire in this Russo-Ukrainian?
No, I wanted to know how he's doing. He was very nice, actually.
Yeah, Trump said that he was just wondering how Zelensky is doing, and that's why he met him. Okay, he's downgrading importance of that meeting. understandably so in some ways. But as I said, Zelensky went to basically lie about this meeting, because he said that ceasefire was discussed. I remind you, dear friends, that globalists and globalist-controlled regimes, especially in Europe, UK, France, Germany, and others, were pushing and still continue to do so for a 30-day ceasefire for their proxies in the Kiev regime, because they know perfectly well Kiev regime is struggling and is desperate for a break, for some break, even if it's a month, right? Because this month will allow Kiev regime to regroup its forces, reorganize, give their troops some break, and also to receive additional weapons and munition to make some stockpile. And Moscow was very clear that temporary solutions like months since ceasefire or something like that is unacceptable. Moscow is all about complete de-escalation, end of hostilities, and peace deal, which can be achieved only if root causes of this crisis is addressed. And right now, obviously, Western ruling class is not ready to discuss these root causes of the crisis, or even to acknowledge existence of their root causes. Anyways, RT also reported that Trump will consider a future Ukraine aid, military aid included. So US President Donald Trump said he will think about whether or not to supply more Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine, as Kiev has been requesting. Speaking at the press conference in The Hague, after meeting with Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky on the sidelines of the NATO summit, Trump was asked by BBC's Ukrainian journalist, so-called journalist, whether Washington would provide missiles. And we have a quote from Trump: "Their systems are very hard to get." He replied, adding that the US also needs them, noting that some patriots were being sent to Israel. Trump said their administration would see if they can make some of them available, and well, probably they will. If they want to, they will find some missiles for Patriot batteries, but I guess stockpiles of these missiles are depleted, not just in Israel, by the way, but in US itself, right? And US manufacturing capabilities are not enough, basically, to sustain such a level of use of these interceptors. So therefore, I have some doubts that Kiev regime will receive a significant number of Patriot missiles anytime soon. But one should keep in mind that US has a huge stockpile of other weapons, right? And unfortunately, weapon supplies from US continues through this terrorist regime in Ukraine and will continue. I have no doubts about that. The only difference we might see is that probably instead of supplying these weapons for free for the regime, Trump will demand Europeans to pay for it. That's it. And they will, by the way. They are already announced that just for 2025, they are allocating 50 billion euros in European NATO member states. And vast majority of that amount gonna go to US military industrial complex, I guess, because it is US only, basically, that can sustain high level of weapon supplies to Kiev regime, which includes infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, artillery systems, munition, and so on. Even if they have some issues with their air defense systems, and they do, when it comes to other military equipment, Washington has quite a huge stockpile. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that yesterday Trump also spoke about potential talk with the Russian president Putin to discuss Ukraine. So US President Donald Trump expects to discuss ways to end the conflict in Ukraine with the Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in the near future. He stated this again during the press conference in Hague after a NATO summit, and probably all of you noticed, dear friends, significant change in the tune lately, not just from Washington but also from globalist control regimes in Europe, that is first of all UK, France, and Germany. And this change of tunes definitely is connected, in my personal opinion, to a relatively recent attack that US and UK conducted on Russian nuclear triad, right? With while they use their proxy Kiev regime. And one should keep in mind that Russia did not yet retaliate, either directly or indirectly, while maintaining plausible deniability, for example. Russia did not yet retaliated for that strike on Russian nuclear triad, and this retaliation will happen. I have no doubts about that this retaliation will happen. And this change of tune, especially from Washington, can be connected exactly with expected Russian retaliation. Maybe Washington wants to safeguard itself, sort of, while greenlighting Russian retaliatory strike on UK. Maybe that is what is happening, and I'm 100% sure, by the way, that something is going to happen with nuclear capabilities of UK, 100%, and something might happen also with the nuclear capabilities of US, because I don't buy even for a second that Donald Trump personally was not briefed on that attack on Russian nuclear triad, and I don't buy even for a second that US intelligence services and Pentagon was either not informed or not involved in that attack. So retaliation should take place against both US and UK, 100%, by the way. And Moscow can do this while maintaining plausible deniability, because in this world there is plenty of groups, and there are plenty of people, actually vast majority of humanity, who would love to strike back on their enemy. And they see UK and US as their enemy, right? So there is a lot of opportunities, plenty of opportunities to strike back on both these terrorist states while maintaining plausible deniability. And Moscow will do this, by the way. Have no doubts about that. Something big is coming to hit 100% UK, because I believe British MI6 was leading that operation to strike Russian nuclear triad, but US is not gonna get out of this situation unscathed. That's also, in my personal opinion, is true. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that, Russian press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, was asked about peace talks between Moscow and Kiev, and he said that dialogue is on hold right now. So Moscow and Kiev are currently working to fully implement the humanitarian portion of their previous agreements, and therefore no negotiations are currently underway on their respective peace roadmaps, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said. And I guess in near future we will see additional exchange of POWs. Maybe the regime will agree to a transfer of thousands of killed Kiev regime's militaries. Russia already expressed readiness to transfer 3,000 bodies, for example, of killed Ukrainian military personnel, on top of 6,000 plus bodies that was already transferred. And according to some reports, if this process continues, Russia actually can transfer to Kiev regime bodies of 40 to 60,000 killed Ukrainian military personnel. Some of it were identified, DNA tests were conducted, some of them had some papers on them, some did not, so significant work needs to be done, obviously, for identification of that of those killed military personnel. But this is something that Kiev regime itself should take care of, first of all, right? But right now there is no dialogue about roadmap towards the peace, and there is not even preliminary information when third round of direct talks between Moscow and Kiev might take place and where. It might be Istanbul or some other place. And remember, a few days ago, special envoy of U.S. President Witkoff was Kat Kellogg, not Witkoff, but Kat Kellogg was visiting Belarus, and according to a number of reports that I see, one of the topics of discussion was a transfer of negotiations, direct talks between Moscow and Kiev from Istanbul to Belarus. So maybe next round, third rounder of these talks will take place in Belarus. That's a possibility. And dear friends, before I continue, let me just notice that, well, if you like my work and if you want to help me to maintain this project, you can assist through several means. You can donate through PayPal platform or Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or the page that I have on Boosty. You can donate through crypto also. And during the live streams, you can use for support Rumble super chat feature, and you can donate from Rumble or become a premium subscriber there. Anyways, all the links for support channels is under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And many thanks to everybody, of course, who already helped and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. Thank you. And let's continue, dear friends, now with some more news. And as I said, this NATO summit in Hague was quite a strange one, to say the least, especially because of the presence of the Trump there. And let me show you this short video. By the way, probably many of you have already seen this, but anyways, I mean, you're gonna laugh at this for sure. Just listen.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Do you regard your NATO allies, though, as kind of like children, and they're obviously listening to you and they're spending more, and you're obviously appreciative of that, but do you hope that actually they're going to be able to defend themselves, defend Europe on their own without...
I think they need help a little bit at the beginning.
So that's the level, by the way, of this summit. Whole world is laughing at this whole world is laughing at this craziness. All right, weird, very weird. Whenever Trump goes somewhere and says something, usually it does make headlines, and not always for good reasons. And Rutte, of course, humiliated himself. I mean, he should resign and just I don't know, go somewhere, buy some land in Netherlands and farm some tulips or something, because he's definitely not in a position that he should be, right? If he is looking for daddies and that kind of stuff, then, and psychiatrists would be helpful too, I guess, right? So yes, that's the level, by the way. That's the level of political class in the West that the world is forced to deal with. I mean, this is crazy, isn't it? And the very same Mark Rutte, who is in search of his daddy, stated that while attempting to please Trump as much as he can, stated that US strikes on Iran was justified, and this is once again clear demonstration, not just the double standards, by the way. At this point, we are not talking about double standards no longer, because it's just pointless, right? We all understand that Western ruling class is completely fake. They have no principles, no values, no dignity, no nothing that we ordinary humans respect. They are complete degenerates, right? And scum of humanity. And so this news is just once again highlights this fakeness of the Western so-called elites, isn't it? Because they, day in, day out, are criticizing Russia for taking steps to defend itself against this hostile collective West, which provoked proxy war. And definitely no one who is analyzing the situation can say that Russia was unprovoked. Russia, collective West was provoking Russia from 2008, right? When NATO, for example, invited Ukraine and Georgia into NATO to join NATO. And by doing so, especially in regards to Ukraine, NATO dismissed basically Budapest Agreement, right? It was Budapest or Bucharest Agreement, Budapest Agreement, right? According to which Ukraine should maintain its neutrality. And then 2014 happened, right? When collective West orchestrated bloody coup d'etat in the country and basically initiated inside the Ukraine civil war, when these neo-Nazi criminals that were put in charge began genociding Russian-speaking east of the country. And the rest of it is history, obviously. At some point in 2022, Russia just had to get involved directly, especially after everyone realized that her collective West was not serious about Minsk I, Minsk II agreements. After all, we all know that Hollande, former French president, and Merkel, former German chancellor, they said it openly that they were using this Minsk I, Minsk II agreements to arm to the teeth their proxy regime in Kiev and to prepare for a war against us, by the way, right? They said it openly. And obviously in 2022, Moscow had no options but to begin special military operation. And still, by the way, even though this conflict 100% provoked by the West, day in, day out, Western so-called elites are saying that well, Russia's unprovoked aggression, and no one is taking them seriously no more, isn't it? Especially outside of the collective West. But look at their statement now that they are making in regards to US and Israeli strikes on Iran, which was absolutely 100% unprovoked, by the way, right? Iran did not bring their military installations closer to either one, Israel or US. Iran did not attack these countries. And moreover, Iran was engaged in diplomacy with the US, for example, and 2 days before sixth or seventh round of talks between Tehran and Washington should take place in Muscat in Oman, Israel began its war against Iran. Absolutely unprovoked, right? Unjustified, illegal attack on Iran from Israel, and then US get engaged also directly and openly, right? And Reuter, who loves to criticize Russia constantly, is saying that, well, US strike on Iran was justified. Really? You know, you tell me, dear friends, what is your take? But at this point, really, I really doubt that hardly anybody in this world that is not being brainwashed by the propaganda of these psychopaths that are in charge of collective West is doubting that all these people are fake, by the way. They have no dignity. all these elements that are in charge of the West are completely fake, have no dignity, no morality, no principles, no values, nothing, right? All they care is their personal interests and their whatever sick geopolitical agenda they have. And what is that agenda? To destroy global South and emerging multipolar world, because they are scared of competition. They are scared to death with their increasing competition from rest of the world. That's all it is, right? Anyways, to continue, dear friends, as I said, Trump was making headlines and entertaining the world yesterday big time. And for example, at one point, he commented about his US's strikes on Iran, and he made quite strange statements there. Let's listen to this short clip also.
Mark Rutte.
Not this one, but this one.
And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. You know, they have guys that go in there after the hit, and they said it was total obliteration.
Did you catch what he said? That some Israeli assets were going there in this bombed nuclear facility, and they confirmed that it was completely obliterated. What the hell is he talking about? Dear friends, do you understand? What the hell is he talking about, man? I don't know. It's crazy, isn't it? It's completely crazy, man. And yet again, that's the people that we are dealing with in this world, isn't it? And this is not all. This is not all. He then went to criticize U.S. media outlets and called them names. He went quite vulgar, by the way. He forgot that he's a president of U.S. He represents country and should behave accordingly, I guess. That would be expectation from, or should be expectation from any president, but Trump is a bit different. So he went to curse, basically, a number of U.S. media outlets for their criticism of effectiveness of this U.S. bombing raid on Iran. And afterwards, he went to actually demand from CNN one of their journalists there to be fired. So American leader Donald Trump has demanded that CNN fire reporter Natasha Bertrand. By the way, I'm not familiar with this person. I don't watch CNN, maybe some short clips time to time that I might see on YouTube, but I just don't really pay much attention to this propaganda outlet. And I definitely don't know who this person is, Natasha Bertrand, but well, Trump was very upset about her and demanded that she is fired over their story about airstrikes on Iran that allegedly did not produce the results that the U.S. presidential administration is boasting about. And on your screen, you can see this personality in case you also are not familiar who she is. And CNN already made a statement that they are standing behind their stuff and they're not going to fire no one just because Trump is demanding this. And again, by the way, it's like circus, it's a crazy circus that is happening right now, and the entire world is turning into this circus because of their actions of the collective West and collective Western leaders. Bloody circus, by the way. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, reports that Trump was so mad about these reports in the media about inefficiency or ineffectiveness of this U.S. raid on Iran's nuclear facilities that today, he announced that today, Pentagon will make a press conference to talk in details about exactly this raid that the U.S. conducted against Fordo, for example, nuclear facility. Although at the same time, if border was attacked with bunker buster bombs, the US also attacked Iran's nuclear facilities with their cruise missiles in Isfahan, I believe, and the Natanz, right? So today, Pat Hexed and some other officials from Pentagon probably will talk to journalists and share some more information about it. But dear friends, hold this topic of effectiveness or ineffectiveness of US strikes, in my personal opinion, is attempt of the globalists and their allies in US, in Israel, elsewhere, to basically prepare ground for potential further escalation in the Middle East, because I'm 100% convinced that globalists are not happy and their partners are not happy. They want a regional war to be provoked there in the Middle East, regional war that will last long enough to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait for years, potentially, and by doing so harm China as much as they possibly can. Chinese economy, which is their main importer of the energy from Middle East. And I spoke about this topic. This is just a part of their plan. There is much more on top of it. So therefore, I read these attacks on White House and the Pentagon from Western so-called media as definitely preparation of the ground for further escalation, right? For further justification of potential additional military escalation from either US or Israel or both, right, in the Middle East. And they will definitely try, and already trying, to basically force Gulf states to increase tensions with Iran, because to provoke long-term hostilities in the Middle East, in the Gulf region, in the Persian Gulf region, collective West has to provoke hostilities on ethnic and religious lines. And they are working in this direction. They are losing right now, thankfully, and thanks to Moscow's diplomacy, Chinese diplomacy, Iran's diplomacy, and diplomacy of other countries. Globalists are losing right now, but that does not mean that they're going to stop. They will continue their attempts to provoke war in the Middle East. They're not going to stop, by the way. So that's what is happening. That's my explanation why so many media outlets in the West are going this wild. They are not criticizing Pentagon for illegal strikes. They are criticizing Pentagon for strike not being strong enough, which is crazy on its own, isn't it? And we are talking about absolutely illegal, unconstitutional military actions that was taken by Washington. And no media outlet in the West is focused on that. They are criticizing White House for ineffectiveness of the strike. Crazy, isn't it? But let's see what Pat Hexet will say today. Probably he will go to state that if intelligence will tell them that well, some more strikes are needed to make sure that all facilities are destroyed, then the US will do something like that again. Already Trump kind of hinted on that, isn't it? That if necessary, they might actually strike again. So therefore, as I said in previous updates, dear friends, if you think that this escalation in the Middle East is over, no, it's not the case. Collective West will continue together with their Israeli allies, will continue, and Israel is a part of Collective West after all, isn't it? They will continue their attempts to provoke war in the Middle East. But to come back to NATO summit itself, we have this report that NATO member states approve a new military spending threshold of 5% of GDP for all the countries to be reached by 2035. So Trump's demands were heard there and not just acknowledged, but well, they are agreeing now to increase their spending on military up to 5% of GDP. And I'm not sure this is even realistic, by the way. They may sign up for any paper, but 5% of GDP, by the way, will bankrupt to be spent on military only will bankrupt many countries in Europe, especially big economies, by the way. Can you imagine how much money is 5% of GDP in case of Germany, biggest economy in Europe, or in case of France or the UK? These economies already are struggling, right? So they made a promise that I don't think they're going to be able to fulfill. We will see. We will find out. But they will increase spending anyways. At least on some level, NATO countries will most likely increase spending, and they will justify this with a non-existent threat from Russia, isn't it? And they will add China now. They will start scaring Europeans and the Americans and everyone else in collective West with non-existent threat from Russia and China. Rutte already spoke about it, isn't it? That, well, China is posing threat. I mean, are you serious? Yes, China plans to send its, forces to occupy Europe, isn't it? That's what they're dreaming about. It's crazy, isn't it? But unfortunately, propaganda is so powerful in the West that many people will believe that, yes, I mean, Russians and Chinese are dreaming about occupying them, and that kind of crap. And on the topic of this increased spending of NATO member states, which is definitely a threat. If anything is a threat for world safety and security, is collective West, by the way, and this military institutions that they have in place. And on this very topic, let's listen what Mark Rutte again said on the spending of their NATO. Where is that video?
States carried too much of the burden of that commitment, and that changes today. President Trump, dear Donald, you made this change possible. Your leadership on this has already produced $1 trillion in extra spending from European allies since 2016. And the decisions today will produce trillions more for our common defense to make us stronger and fairer by equalizing spending between America and America's allies.
And, well, they are saying it all, isn't it? Openly. Trillions, by the way, to be spent on military. And you guess these trillions are coming from where? Of course, from cuts. Inevitable cuts on welfare, first of all, that our NATO member states will do. And this is going to happen in times when, according to comments, by the way, that I receive from members of our community from different Western countries, this is happening at the times when people in European states, people in US, middle class, by the way, is struggling with their day-to-day life to make sure that they are able to pay for their bills and so on, especially elderly people, by the way. But even younger generations, right? Younger generations are in extremely difficult situation because they almost have no chance to afford house, right? They almost have no chance to afford house. And when there is so many social issues in these Western countries, in these NATO member states, when social fabric is stretched beyond limits already, local leadership is talking about additional trillions to be spent on to enrich basically military industrial complex and themselves. Because yet again, there is no threat for the Western world from Russia or from China. by the way. There is no such a threat. If they're not going to start war against us, open direct war, we're not going to start war against them, right? We all understand this. But, you know, will people in collective West countries wake up, man? Majority of people. Until it's not too late. I don't know. I don't think so. And as I said, dear friends, this increased spending and militarization of the collective West is, of course, being monitored by countries worldwide, by Russia, by China. And of course, we all understand that they see us, Western ruling class sees us as their main, as their enemy, right? As the main competitor. And it is obvious that they want to destroy our country. They want they want to destroy our societies, our livelihood, and therefore leadership of Russia, leadership of China just have no option but to take countermeasures, and we are doing this, right? We are preparing ourselves to be in a position to put up good fight if it comes to it, while hoping that common sense will prevail in a collective West, and at some point they will begin de-escalating. But you know, we have to be prepared for any possible scenario, isn't it? And on this very topic, by the way, Lavrov, foreign minister of Russian Federation, stated that, well, doomsday clock is getting closer to midnight. Russia is actively working to prevent the nuclear conflict. Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, stated, we have a comment from him. Global security is probably the most important thinker, especially at the current stage when the infamous doomsday clock, and he's referring to doomsday clock that is basically based on scientists from all over the world that are monitoring developments in this world and assessing risks of the full-scale nuclear war or nuclear exchange, right? And currently, doomsday clock is closer to the midnight than ever before. This clock was not close to midnight even during the Caribbean crisis, even during their most heated times during the Cold War. So therefore, we all have quite reasons actually to be cautious and to pay attention to all these developments, right? And that's the doomsday clock that Sergei Lavrov is referring to. So yes, global security probably the most important thinker, especially at the current stage when the infamous doomsday clock is ticking and the hand is moving closer and closer to midnight. It is important to prevent this, and we are actively working to prevent a catastrophe from happening, he said, speaking to employees of the Foreign Ministry of Turkmenistan and their teachers and the students of the Institute of International Relations of the country's foreign ministry. According to Lavrov, talk about the threat of Third World War has become commonplace, which is sad given the rise of revanchist sentiments in Europe. And I mean, who can disagree with Lavrov? Does he has a point here? Of course he does. And this constant focus on the militarization of the collective West countries is definitely bringing us, all of humanity, closer and closer to that midnight on doomsday clock, which means full-scale nuclear war and the end of human civilization. And on the topic of nuclear exchange, let me share with you this information that UK intends to buy at least 12 nuclear-capable US-made F-35A jets. Starmer, Prime Minister of UK, announced at the NATO summit, adding that they will make aircraft able to bear nuclear weapons if necessary. Downing Street says its biggest strength of their UK nuclear posture in a generation. And currently, dear friends, UK is heavily dependent on US in its nuclear forces, because British nuclear submarines are using US-made Trident missiles. And without US authorization, I'm not sure London can even launch those missiles if they want to. And I think this information is, can be seen as an indicator that London wants to gain some more independence from Washington when it comes to its nuclear capabilities. And this is obviously extremely dangerous, right? This is extremely dangerous. If it was up to me, by the way, I mean, at some point, let's say this way, at some point, due to constant escalation by the collective West countries, we will definitely see direct confrontation between Russia and NATO, a limited level of, limited scale of confrontation, either in Ukraine or maybe in the Baltics. And after that, I think Moscow will be in a position to demand denuclearization of UK and France, and I guess that will happen. So I think in a time frame of 3 to 5 years, probably world will face a risk situation when direct clashes, limited scale clashes between Russia and NATO will be a reality. It will happen, and Moscow will demand complete denuclearization of US and UK and France, and this will happen. This will happen, by the way. Neither London, neither Paris can be trusted with nuclear weapons, and these countries have to be demilitarized. Denuclearized for sure. Just mark my word, by the way, 3 to 5 years is not that long. We will all see. And meanwhile, let's focus a little more about on a special military operation and this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. RIA Novosti is reporting that overnight Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 50 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep inside the Russian territory. I can give you some specifics on that. 23 drones were intercepted over the Kursk region, 11 drones over the Rostov region, 6 drones over the Bryansk region, 3 drones each over the Belgorod and the Moscow regions, 2 drones from which was directed actually towards Russian capital. 2 drones were intercepted over the Crimea and 1 drone each over the Mordovia and Kaluga region. So relatively large scale attempt of Kiev regime and NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. Also, we have this report, dear friends, that Russian armed forces liberated Yalta settlement in a DPR. And this settlement is located, I believe, right next to, right on the border with Dnipropetrovsk region. Let me show you on the map that area, and yes, that's the Yalta settlement, and it is located on the border with the Dnipropetrovsk region, and more and more areas. By the way, Russian troops are, I mean, take a look at this. Russian troops are basically reaching the Dnipropetrovsk region, and once LPR and DPR are fully liberated, I think we will see significant increase of Russian military activity in Dnipropetrovsk region itself. Although Russian troops already are conducting operations in that direction, and we also have this report that, for example, Russian army is advancing towards Kupiansk in a Kharkov region, which is also true. Russian troops are advancing significantly from northern western side in direction of Kupiansk. So this is Kupiansk city, by the way, that you see on your screen right now. And as you can see, dear friends, this gray area, gray zone, is sort of disputed between the sides. Although, according to reports that I see, all these settlements, Moskovka, Radkovka, and the rest of them are under Russian control, and well, Russian troops are basically inside the city itself at this point. Russian troops from northern, northern-western, northern-eastern flanks are actually entering the Kupiansk itself. And there are also reports are coming in about intensification of the activity of the Russian armed forces from the southern side to get closer to Kupiansk. But I guess due to terrain there, it is much more difficult to advance in a speed, with the speed that Russian troops were moving forward from the northern-western side. But anyways, Kupiansk already, one may argue that there is in operational encirclement, because all the roads that are connecting Kupiansk with the rest of the Kiev controlled territory is under Russian, not just artillery fire control, but under Russian drone control. And we all know what that means, isn't it? Garrison of Kiev regime's forces in Kupiansk will struggle to receive any reinforcement and any supplies of munition or whatever. So battle for Kupiansk is definitely is getting closer and closer to its final chapter. What other news I have bookmarked? Well, this is very important news also, dear friends. I shared this information on my Telegram and Twitter X pages. True that in Kiev, veterans of Kiev regime's forces took to Maidan, and well, time to time there are some small protests in Maidan in Kiev, when people that are brave enough are protesting, making some demands from this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. But well, this time, by the way, I mean, as you can see on your screen right now, veterans of Kiev regime's forces participated in this meeting. And many of them, just to take a look, according to some reports, up to 1,000 veterans of Kiev regime's forces were participating in these protests, and some demands that were aired during these protests were calls for Washington, for Donald Trump, to get involved and to help locals there to deal with the corruption in a regime, with corrupt regime, basically. And this is what makes this protest different from all the others, because of the involvement of a large number of militaries, not just veterans, but according to some reports, current servicemen of Kiev regime were also participating in this protest. And one of the demands was that they were calling basically for US to get involved and to help them to deal with the corruption in the country. How are they going to deal with it? I mean, who is leading the charge when it comes to corruption? Of course, it's Zelensky and his inner circle, isn't it? They are the big bosses. They are stealing left and right and become a dirty rich, right? While serving their Western masters and sacrificing hundreds of thousands, millions actually, of their fellow citizens for geopolitical agenda of the West. So interesting developments, by the way, in Kiev. And one may argue that this protest is an indicator of what to come, and there are potentially even for regime change, because I think Washington is close to decision to remove Zelensky from office, and they all understand that this is not going to happen with so-called elections, right? And I remind you, this happened yesterday when Zelensky was meeting with Trump, and who knows, maybe Trump was briefed on this topic, and he demanded from Zelensky this action, this protest, not to be touched by the regime's mercenaries. Possibility. Because usually whenever there is some protest in Kiev, Kiev regime is sending its butchers, right, and dispersing crowds. But yesterday, they were shaky. They did not really try to escalate. Anyways, interesting developments there, and maybe it's only a matter of even weeks at this point before Zelensky will be removed from office. Okay. Screen is back now, hopefully. And well, dear friends, let's continue several more news for the news segment, and after, let's take 15-20 minutes, maybe 30, for exchange of opinions, Q&A, community chat part. But first, this several news. RIA Novosti is reporting that court in Armenia arrested Archbishop Bagrat for 2 months. So court in Yerevan has arrested for 2 months the Archbishop of Armenian Apostolic Church, Bagrat Galstanyan, who opposes the policies of Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. Lower Homanes Hodoyan State, a lawyer of the religious leader in Armenia, court granted their investigators' request and arrested their archbishop. And dear friends, this news should not come as a surprise to majority of our community. Yesterday I reported about attack on Armenian church by U.S. controlled or Western controlled regime in Armenia, regime of Pashinyan, and I made parallels, isn't it, between Pashinyan's regime and Saakashvili's regime when Saakashvili was in power in Georgia, also asset of the U.S. Saakashvili's regime was attacking church in Georgia, Georgian Orthodox Church, and lost that fight. And Pashinyan's regime is also attacking church now, Armenian Apostolic Church, and they are doing this. These regimes, by the way, Western-controlled regimes, are working based on basically same orders, right? Same lines, same bookmarks that they are receiving from their masters, from CIA or Washington or whatever, right? And they are attacking religious institutions because, as it was case in Georgia and as it is case in Armenia, Christian church in Georgia, it's Orthodox church. In Armenia, it's Gregorian church, has a huge respect of the public, and these Western regimes cannot live in peace with any institutions that they have no control over, that have more respect and trust of the public than regime itself. And that's why, by the way, these regimes are operating in the very same way all over the place. Take a look at the Ukraine, by the way. One of the first what this terrorist regime did after a bloody coup d'etat in 2014 was attack not just on Russian speakers in the East, but also attack on Orthodox Church, canonic Orthodox Church of Ukraine. And this attack continues there until now. So many churches were burned down, isn't it? Destroyed, took away from the canonic Orthodox Church. And something similar is happening now in Armenia. But as these Western assets lost in Georgia, eventually, very same will happen in Armenia. I have no doubts about it, and people will prevail. But unfortunately, they're going to be casualties in this struggle. And as we can see, dear friends, this criminal regime of Pashinyan, this Western-controlled regime is already arresting religious leaders and putting them in jail. By the way, I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy, but that's what they do, right? A few more news, dear friends. Vlad newspaper is reporting that aide of Russian President Ushakov shared with public information about how Russian president will participate in upcoming BRICS summit in Brazil. So Russian President Vladimir Putin will take a part in a BRICS summit via video link, and the Russian delegation at the event in Brazil will be headed by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. This was stated by the aide of Russian President Yuri Ushakov. And so, well, no reasons for any further speculations. Last several days, there was some speculations on internet. Would Russian president travel to Brazil or not? And we have an answer on that. Not surprisingly, Russian president will join this conference with a video link. Not surprisingly, because no one in his inner circle should even exercise the topic of travel to Brazil, because after all, West is waging war against us, right? And it is not safe. So it could not be done. So Russian president will participate via video link, and the same will be done by Chinese leader for different reasons. But as I reported yesterday, a leader of China, Xi Jinping, will also not attend the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. And if in case of Russia, reasons are understandable. West is waging proxy war against Russia, and it is not safe for Russian president to travel to Brazil. But in case of Chinese leader, I think his absence on the summit does indicate that there is some serious tensions inside the BRICS on number of directions, and well, that's just too bad, you know. If you remember, dear friends, I was saying that maybe BRICS member states, original BRICS member states, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, should come up with their major principles and major institutions inside their organization first, and then start bringing in more countries. Because more countries are the members of the organization, more difficult it is to agree on anything, right? And we are facing now this reality when there is tensions inside the organization, because one countries want alternative financial and banking system, alternative to their weaponized Western one to created now or yesterday, and other countries maybe under influence of Western elites are kind of derailing this process. Some countries opposing China to take a somewhat leading role in certain developments. Other countries are okay with that. And by the way, we should always base our judgment on objective reality, isn't it? China is a leading economy in this world. Chinese economy is bigger than all other BRICS member states together. So it does mean something, right? We might don't like it, but it does mean something. And so eventually, by the way, I'm afraid due to this internal some tensions, entire process is under risk of derailment, process of emerging of this multipolar world. And it is upsetting. It is upsetting because, as many of you probably will agree with me, it is absolutely essential and crucial for this world alternative financial and the banking system to be created, alternative reserve currency to be created, and BRICS to become BRICS Plus to become a major keystone of emerging multipolar world. We just need this, right? All of us, no matter in which part of the world we are living, in Russia, in China, in US, in Brazil, Australia, or I don't know, in Germany or in South Africa or, Argentina. We all need alternative financial and the banking system. We all need reserve currency, alternative reserve currency, because Western financial and banking system cannot be trusted, and Western so-called reserve currencies, US and euros, somewhat, pound or Swiss franc or whatever they have, just cannot be trusted, right? And I don't know, man. Let's hope BRICS member states will somehow manage to deal with whatever issues they are facing, because this is not good. This is just not good, man. Russian president has reasons not to go personally into BRICS, but he will participate through video link. But absence of Chinese leader there definitely indicates some serious issues that organization is facing. Share your take, dear friends, what you think on that. I don't think Chinese leader is not going there just because he just don't feel like to travel somewhere. I don't think so. RT is also reporting that China warming to a new Russian mega gas pipeline. Okay. China's interest in the construction of Russia's proposed Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, which would deliver gas via Mongolia, has intensified following the outbreak of the conflict between Iran and Israel. The Wall Street Journal reported on Tuesday, citing sources in Beijing, and the planned mega pipeline would allow up to 50 billion cubic meters of natural gas to be delivered annually from northern Russia to China via Mongolia. And dear friends, did I predicted that China will increase its activity in regards to additional energy projects with Russia? I said it even before Israel attacked Iran, isn't it? I said it when reports start coming in that a number of US businesses are interested in buying assets in South Stream pipeline, or Turk Stream as it also known, pipeline. Also, some groups in US are interested to invest in Nord Stream pipeline, to buy it, actually, restore it, and then to buy Russian gas and on the border, actually, with other countries, and then transfer this gas to Europe and make good buck as a third party. And when this information starts circulating, I said straight away that China lost so much time while prolonging these unending negotiations with Russia on numerous energy projects and other projects, right? And now they are seeing that, yes, I mean, even though increasing dependence on Russia is risky, because you don't want to be dependent on one country on a strategical level for anything, right? But in other hand, they don't really have much options, isn't it? Because collective West can ignite war and most likely will ignite war in the Middle East again, and that might happen at any time. So inevitably, China will increase its activity when it comes to cooperation in energy field with Russia, with Kazakhstan, potentially with Turkmenistan, closest neighbors, closest countries in the region that can provide China with additional vast volumes of energy, right? But yet again, both Moscow and China should keep in mind that extreme dependence of China on Russian energy is not something that we should look forward to. And hopefully China will manage to diversify its energy supplies so much so that this increased dependence on Russia will not create tensions between the countries, because West would love that, but it's not in our interest, right? It's not in interest of Russia and China. So yes, that's about it. By the way, probably before end of this year, we will see agreement on this Siberia 2 pipeline, Power Siberia 2 pipeline, will be signed between Russia and China, and potentially some more projects on top of that. And well, dear friends, this is it when it comes to news segment. Was there any super chat? On the PayPal. Where it is on this? Thank you very much, Nathan, for your gift for the donation through PayPal. Truly grateful. And yes, yesterday during the live stream, Malina donated, member of our community, donated through Boosty. So thank you, Malina, for your support. And dear friends, let's exchange opinions on some topics. I will go through some. I will go through chat now, dear friends, and whenever I see questions, I will try to react on it and be as informative as I possibly can. I'm happy that members of our community actively exchanging opinions during these live streams. This is great. And so, yes, let's start. As always, dear friends, capital Q before question will make it easier for me to notice the question, because I am just scrolling, right? I mean, I'm scrolling fast. So, because if I start reading all comments, it will take hours, right? So I'm scrolling. If I notice capital letters, I will I will focus on that immediately. Once again, thank you all for joining this stream, for your attention. Question. Sandy Brown is commenting, Levan, I wonder why you don't see the similarities between their attack on Russian nuclear triad and their drone attack on Iran by Mossad. I see these similarities, dear friends. I cannot repeat myself about certain topics like every day, isn't it? More news is being generated and reported on daily basis, and I cannot talk about same topics like constantly. But when attacks happened on Iran, by the way, when Mossad was using these trucks that were filled with drones, not just me, by the way, but many other commentators in alternative media noticed and highlighted straight away that, well, this is very similar to the attack, to the technique that was used to attack Russian nuclear triad. And therefore, I even expressed my opinion at the time that potentially Mossad was also involved in one way or another in the planning of that attack on Russian nuclear triad, or maybe Mossad and the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky received this idea from MI6 and MI6 and the CIA. That also can be the case, right? But I definitely spoke about this topic, Sandy, at the time. And of course, there was similarities, and clearly there is a connection there. I cannot know. Is Mossad was basically behind the idea of using this tactic to strike Russian nuclear triad, or maybe MI6 was behind this idea to use their trucks with the drones, and they share this idea through their proxy, Kiev regime and Mossad. I cannot know details, but similarity is obviously there, and no one can doubt that, isn't it? And as I said, by the way, on topic of that attack on Russian nuclear triad, I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that something big is about to happen with the nuclear capabilities of UK and the US. If anybody thinks that Russia will just forget about what Washington and London did, no, it's just not possible, right? Russia needs to restore nuclear deterrent. Russia needs to send clear message that you attack our nuclear capabilities, we will take care of you immediately, or 100%, let's say, not immediately like day after, but we will for sure take care of the situation. And therefore, I think sometime in the near future, something is going to happen to British and US nuclear capabilities, and officially Russia will maintain plausible deniability, right? As US and UK did, right? They maintained the plausible deniability, isn't it? Because they didn't directly attack; they used their proxy. So therefore, something is going to happen to US and UK as the nuclear forces, and as I said, there is many people in this world, by the way, many groups that would love to take some action, and they will soon. But thank you for your question, Sandy. But my answer is that I see these similarities, and I spoke about it very first day that information broke about. Also, Nidish Kumar is asking, Levan, how much percentage is Russia spending on the defense right now? In terms of GDP, I don't know. I cannot tell you. Like on top of my head, there is not number. Russian defense budget due to special military operation is about $100 billion, isn't it, a year? And Russian GDP is in GDP terms is 3+ trillion or something. So that's the math. But Russia is engaged in this proxy war, by the way. Entire NATO is fighting against us, right? So I will check after this stream. Maybe I will find detailed information what percentage of Russian GDP is being spent on defense. But in terms of money volume, it's about 100 billion or something like that. Вот, Ань? Что? Где? Нет. Нет, там ошибка какая-то. Какие 400 миллиардов? Ты что, шутишь, блин? Не может быть. Sorry, dear friend, sir. My wife is tries to help now to find detailed information. I will check on the exact numbers, by the way, but I believe something around 100 billion is a defense budget, right? Maybe a little more, little less, but something around that. Let's go through. Oh, we have a comment from Harry C. Smith. I think Russia is currently spending 6-7% on defense, usually before 2022. It's been around 3%. Yet again, maybe that is the case. Harry, I just don't have numbers on the top of my head. Last time I read news about Russian defense spendings was like several months ago. And I believe overall budget is like $100 billion, something like that. But yet again, we are defending ourselves. Entire NATO with very few exceptions, is fighting against us, right? They are sending their mercenaries, their special forces, and their weapons and equipments and money for hundreds of billions, and on year-on-year terms. So therefore, we don't really have an option but to counter that. Questions. As I said, dear friends, capital Q before question will make it easier to spot question. Also, you see Nidish Kumar is writing in the capital letters, and I can see it easier. So Levan, I hope those F-35s don't fail on UK. It's carrying payloads. Yeah, I can see your irony. Who knows? You know my take on F-35s. I think this was a scam all along. This project of F-35s. Over 1.5 trillion was already spent on this project. Can you imagine how much money Lockheed Martin and other companies in U.S. military industrial complex received while working on this scam project, right? And to maintain already built planes, by the way, Pentagon will spend another 1.5 trillion in next 10 years also, right? Or something. That's why Western equipment is always this so engineered, because they are making money. Western military industrial complex makes money not just by selling their equipment, but then they are making even more money on maintenance, because when you are over engineering stuff, something will always break down, right? So that means you will have a constant flow of orders to repair this, to repair that, and that is a constant flow of money. And Su-35 is over-engineered garbage, flying garbage, although it does struggle to fly it even. And this project did bring trillions to U.S. military industrial complex. I mean, you know, and plenty of them already crashed, isn't it? And I said, this is garbage, by the way. F-35 is a total garbage. Extremely expensive one. But when it comes to UK's nuclear capabilities, right? Well, I think there is a possibility that this Vanguard submarine may actually end up in trouble very soon, because of the very tense situation in the British Navy, right? Sailors being treated like crap. In British Navy, there was reports about it, and who knows, some sailor on one of the Vanguard class submarines may say, you know what, I'm going to teach these bastards a lesson, and may do something. And yeah, I mean, things happened, right? But as I said, soon something big is going to happen to British nuclear capabilities and US nuclear capabilities. It's inevitable. It has to happen, right? Because you cannot attack nuclear triad of other country and think that you will get away with it. You can not get away with it. And the responsibility, by the way, whatever is going to happen to US and UK's nuclear capabilities, responsibility will lay on London and Washington. That's how it is. No one can claim otherwise. In UK, by the way, just a couple of days ago, several guys went to one of their major air bases, isn't it? And use spray paint to do some, to paint basically engines of some British Air Force planes and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if they get in and get out from that base, by the way, I mean, that is a clearly message that literally almost anybody can just go in, any anti-imperialist or individual can just go in, take action, destroy airplanes or whatever they want, and they get out, and well, they might do it. Levan, what do you think it will happen to India? Will they get out of BRICS eventually and go with their West, or will they stay? Well, I think there is such possibility that India will leave BRICS. I was thinking about this matter. That will be a mistake, in my opinion. But due to tensions between New Delhi and Beijing, I mean, these tensions between these two countries are killing this organization, by the way. Let's be real here. I mean, tensions between India and China is killing BRICS right now. And this is just too bad, man. I can understand India has some concerns, security concerns, and everything. Russia has security concerns, also legit security concerns, and all the rest. And by the way, Russia and India are strategical partners, isn't it? And if Moscow and New Delhi will make sit down and go through certain topics, right, and reassure each other that if anything happens, they will support each other, right? I don't think India should have any doubts that Moscow will help when needed. Moscow already demonstrated, isn't it, that it was willing even to go into Third World War in 1971 to protect India. So I think whatever concerns India have about security can be addressed, right? Russia is there, other countries are there, right? India is not alone, for God's sake. But yet again, there is also Western factor, Western influencer. There is attempts to pull out India from this project of emerging multipolar world and to make it a part of collective West. And if that line will succeed, then eventually, maybe not this year, but next year or year after, India will probably leave BRICS. I think so. But this is unfortunately, I mean, this is something that we just have to talk about because, yes, it's a possibility, in my personal opinion. Hopefully all the issues will be resolved, man. Hopefully, because we need India. Multipolar world needs India, and I think it is in best interest of India, in whichever you look at it, to be in BRICS and to be a leading member of this organization that is a keystone for a multipolar world, than to be part of this collective West that is doomed, by the way, right? But yet again, it's India's decision, by the way. Whatever decisions they will make, we have to respect it because it is what it is, In any ways, Moscow will always try to have as good relationships with India as possible. I think it is, yes, time to end this live stream. Thank you all, dear friends, for your attention. Have a wonderful day. And dear friends, let me remind you that if you want to support this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, you will find all the links for support. And if you come across short videos, by the way, I'm going to try to make several short videos from this live stream. And maybe we will manage to deal with their algorithm that is going crazy, by the way, last week also, especially crazy. I will make several short videos. And if you have time, please like those short videos and leave some commentary. And also, please leave some commentary under this stream itself, because that will help to reach wider audience. And so, yes, thank you very much once again for your attention. Have a wonderful day, and see you soon.